Hey everyone, welcome to our new summer podcast where we're going to talk about some music history and connections of different cultures through music. Recently, our tour leader Rocío, she's here with me, and she's going to be taking us through some history of the Spanish guitar today. So, by the way, I'm Chaz from Musical Getaways. I'm founder, director. Rocío is our boss over at business development and also a tour leader for us in Cuba and Spain, and she also studied her master's in musicology in Spain. So just recently we were at the La Rioja Wine and Music Festival, which had a lot of classical music. So we kind of thought it would be cool to talk about the Spanish guitar. So right off the bat, let's talk about the origins of the Spanish guitar and what we know about it. I know there's probably a lot of mixture in the history, but give us what do we know about the Spanish guitar and its origins?
Well, first, hi Chas and hi everyone. The guitar's origins, like many other instruments, is shrouded in some uncertainty, no? But some scholars suggest it arrived in Spain during the Arab invasion of the 8th century. But others suggest the guitars has a Greek origins because they find an instrument resembling the modern guitar over there. But however, there isn't a definitive account of the guitar's origin. Also, we can, for example, dating back to 1000 BC in Syria, there existed a string instrument called the kitara, which consisted of an oval-shaped wooden box lacking a neck. And also in India, a similar instrument was known as the sitar, from which the term guitar is derived, or is what we think. A pivotal moment, for example, in the guitar's evolution occurred with the addition of a fifth string, because so far we're talking about very primitive instrument, now 3 double strings or 4 string. But once they added the fifth string, then we can trace the transition towards the Spanish guitars as we know it today.
Yeah, so I think it's interesting that the guitarra is like kind of almost how you say it in Spanish, right? Guitarra. Maybe it's pronounced differently. I don't know.
Yes, it's a very interesting word. But also it's guitarra and sitar. In Spanish, we say citara. So it's close to guitarra. They are very, very close to all of them, of course.
Before it evolved to having a fifth string, so it only had 4 strings, kind of like a modern bass guitar. It was just 4.
It's more like 3 pair strings, and like pretty similar like Cuban tres, 2, 2, and 2.
Okay,
and then an additional string for higher tones. So that's the typical instrument from the 13th century. Then when someone's added this fifth string, that technological advancement gained a great popularity throughout Europe, the addition of this fifth string. And then the 18th century was the moment that saw a significant modifications to the guitar, notably by German luthier Jacob Otto. He introduced a 6th string, standardizing the instrument to the 6 strings model that we recognize today. So we have we can trace that evolution.
6 string when we stopped having the like double harmony string, so we're talking about the 4 strings that had sort of like 2 together. I mean, is that an octave? Not to get too nerdy, but the harmony there, this play, like kind of like on the trace or one of these other 4 or 5 string guitars.
I really don't know. That's a good question for guitar experts.
Yeah, so that's another thing is one of these cool things about this podcast is that we want to make it an open discussion. So anybody who's watching this wherever on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok, comment below and let us know what you know about this history as well. There's a technical aspect as well that I'm sure that guitarists get into that are like talking about the harmonies and things like that. Of course, I'm always curious of this because I don't play much guitar, very little guitar, but I'm always curious about how are the tunings, or how were the tunings, especially between the trace in Cuba and these 4 and 5 string guitars before before Jacob Otto was able to make the six string. So I'm guessing the six string, though, kind of skipping ahead, was just like the normal guitar that we know as the Spanish guitar, or a classical guitar. Is
Uh-huh.
that what we're talking about now? The six string is
Yes,
just the
yes, yes.
normal
The
guitar?
Spanish, yes, the Spanish guitar or classical guitar. The For classical music mainly. Of course, this Spanish guitar or classical guitar is the mother in some way or father or of the acoustic guitar or the electric guitar. So that's the origins of this very modern variation. Actually, it was in the 19th century. The guitar was adapted for plucking and strumming techniques, and then it was transformed into a concert instrument. So far, was a more crafted instrument in some way. And in the 19th century, it made its way to the United States. And also in the 19th century, it was integrated into the flamenco music. So this is another very important moment of popularity, let's say, for the guitar, for this kind of guitar specifically. Because remember, we have a lot of string instruments in the world, not just the guitar, any others, but for sure, or it's very notably that the guitar is very popular.
Definitely. So, do we know if the guitar made its way directly from Spain, or how did it get to the United States? I mean, well, it had to have been some of the colonialists that made their way over, and they're like, "Hey, I brought a
Yeah.
guitar." Maybe the Irish. I don't know. So, do we know that that history?
Or just remember, I mentioned it already that it became very popular throughout Europe in general. So I am not sure who was the nation or people or who make it popular in the United States. In Latin America, we know it was because of Spain.
One of these arguments of where genres came from too. We always talk about where did rumba come from in Cuba, like specifically what city? And a lot of people say Matanzas, but then you have other people who are like, no, there was like stuff going on in Santiago. And I think that's the case for all music history, right? Where, maybe there's these origins in Spanish and Arabic music that, made it popular. And then I'm sure it spread all over Europe. And then who knows, it probably was, some sailor was like, hey, I just bought this at a market and I'm going to bring it on the ship with me. But that's another thing, again, if anybody wants to, comment or share any information, we love to connect the dots and learn more about history. So this conversation is something that we want to include everybody. So if there's something that you want to tie in, or someone that or a name, definitely mention it in the comments.
Yes.
And we want to do some research ourselves and become more knowledgeable about anything that has to do with music. So like the going on to like the construction and the design, what are some of the unique features of the Spanish guitar's construction, and like how it was, how it became the Spanish guitar that differentiated it from other guitars or earlier versions of the guitar?
That's a very good point because, yes, we can find some differences between the Spanish guitar and, for example, the acoustic guitar, because these two instruments are very similar, but they are different in the same way, of course. For example, Spanish guitar, the strings are crafted from nylon, whereas acoustic guitar, the strings are made of metal. So this contrast in materials gives a softer and sweeter tone for the Spanish guitar, and then a brighter and more powerful sound for the acoustic guitar. But also, these material strengths, this difference in the materials will affect playing techniques. That's why, for example, nylon strings can be plucked with a string, with the strings can be plucked with fingers or a pick, while metal strings are typically strummed with a pick due to the greater hardness of these kind of strings. Also, for example, acoustic guitar generally boasts larger dimensions because it has biggest sound box, right? And this design enhances volume and sound projection. Then the Spanish guitar, being a little bit small, let's say, or it tends to be narrower compared to that of acoustic guitar. So the Spanish guitars will create a more warm sound in some way because it's designed to boost or to enhance the lower and medium tones or frequencies. So what we would get from there, it's a sound more delicate. How to say it? All these words are very abstract, and metaphorical, because it's not fair to say you can play in a very romantic or warm or sweet way with an electric guitar. Yes, of course you can. But yes, we can feel like a different vibration of frequencies and sound in general. So that's why the Spanish guitar or this classical guitar is better for classical music, of course, and some folk music or more intimate music in general, let's say. And then we have the acoustic guitar with that metallic and aggressive sound, better or ideal for rock music or blues or pop, because that's the energy the atmosphere you want to create with that sounds. And now, for example, we can talk about the flamenco guitar. It looks similar to this classical guitar we are talking about, but they are different, because the flamenco guitar is a variation of the Spanish guitar. So the flamenco guitar, for example, the strings are positioned closer to the fretboard, right? So requiring less pressure from the guitarist. This will make when they can play faster, but that is because this flamenco guitar is designed to make it easy in some way to play that fast. So also the flamenco guitar, it has a distinct sound, and it's perfect for the meaning or the emotion than flamenco it tends to transmit in general.
No idea that it was a different guitar for flamenco. I mean, when you look at it, it looks like a classical guitar,
Yeah.
But I was actually wondering that, like, how in the world they could play these really fast, intricate rhythms, because I don't play guitar that much, but I have played on a classical, and I'm like, man, I really have to, like, to make the chords, I have to, like, really push down. And I
Yes,
can't see how you can switch
Mhm.
chords or move through the frets so fast. So that actually makes a lot more sense, that the strings are closer to the fretboard, which actually you see, if I can make an odd comparison, you see in like speed metal music or really fast rock music, because the electric guitarist will actually put their guitar strings, they'll whatever the word is, the action or whatever it is, they'll make the strings closer so they can play these really fast rhythms. And you hear that in flamenco too. Actually, maybe if you put distortion on the flamenco guitar, it would sound like metal guitar too. But that's just a weird comparison. I know that's not normal, but I didn't know that. That's very interesting that there's actually a different guitar specifically for flamenco music, but its origins are similar. They come from the Spanish guitar.
Exactly.
Right?
Flamenco is from Spain, and here in Spain you can find very good luthiers in general. So we have a lot of very, very famous luthiers in Spain creating guitars just for very specific musicians around the world, not just in Spain.
The people making it in Spain, they're customizing it for different artists.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying? That's very cool.
Yes.
So we're talking a little bit more about the guitar, and one of the things that helps with this is if we can hear or see some of these iconic pieces that have come about throughout the years. So could you name a few iconic pieces written specifically for the Spanish guitar, maybe that everybody should know or put in their playlist?
Yes, I would like to talk about the Concierto de Aranjuez, and mainly because we just finished this tour in La Rioja, and as musical getaways, we were able to enjoy this beautiful concert with the National Symphonic Orchestra.
The National Orchestra of Spain?
Yes. And Pablo Sainz Villegas, one of the best musicians, the best guitar players or guitarists for classical music in the currently days. And the Concierto de Aranjuez is an emblematic masterpiece of Spanish music in general. It's a beautiful masterpiece for sure. I think, yes, it's one of that music or compositions or that almost everybody should know, not because this particular thing like you should have a lot of knowledge about the world. Yes, maybe because of that, but also because it's a beautiful music that really touch your soul or your mind or your person in the moment you're listening to this masterpiece. So it's like a gift in some way. When you listen to this music, you feel like, okay, you can connect with many beautiful thoughts at that moment. So it's that for me, Concierto de Aranjuez or the Aranjuez Concerto is a kind of gift and everybody should enjoy at least one in their lives. Now, so it was composed by Joaquin Rodrigo in 1940, and it's inspired by the Spanish city of Aranjuez. Aranjuez is situated 42 kilometers south of Madrid, alongside the Tagus River, and it boasts an elegant palace and a meticulously maintained garden. So it's a beautiful place. Look, it served as a summer residence for both Austrians and Bourbon kings of Spain. So Rodrigo's concerto, this one we're talking about, draws its inspiration from the beauty of these gardens, of course, serving as an ode to the sights, sounds, and nature in general, But also, this concert is really special because three significant details will enrich the story behind this concerto. Firstly, Joaquin Rodrigo, the composer, he was blind from the age of 3. So just
Oh, wow.
imagine, despite his inability to visually perceive the palaces and gardens of Aranjuez, so remember I mentioned it's inspired in this visual beauty. Well, his keen sensitivity enabled him to appreciate and convey beauty through music, a medium transcending visual limitations. So we're talking about a very, very sensitive person, right? Secondly, the Aranjuez Concerto was composed during a very tumultuous period in Spain, marked by the end of the Spanish Civil War. So in this way, the concerto, this concert, not only celebrates the scenic beauty of Spain, but also symbolizes a longing for a better moment, a prosperous and peaceful nation in general. So he wants to say that also in this music. So he employs the Spain's national instruments to craft a delicate neoclassical melody because it's composed in this neoclassical style. That's why it's also very, I don't want to say easy, but easy to enjoy. Yes, why not? And is infused with Andalusian folkloric influences. That's what we can perceive in this music. So maybe we shall now listen to some of this concert we're talking about. Maybe I would love to listen the second movement because the Adagio is the second movement is renowned as the most popular segment of the concerto. Actually, a lot of people will recognize this specific movement, the Adagio, because it has a profound emotion and beauty in general.
Take a listen now. wow, that's first of all, my first thought on the guitar is that it sounds kind of like a harp with the way that you pluck the strings, you know. But also, I think first of all, I think I do know that tune. Maybe I've heard it in a movie, or I almost feel like that Chick Corea played off of this with that tune
Yes,
Spain.
yes.
It did. Is this like a similar kind of thing going on with like? I feel like it's got something similar going on, or it's some tribute to that, because obviously this is a famous Spanish song. But I just heard that because I've been playing that song a lot on drums, so I thought that was very interesting. But yeah, it's like the Spanish guitar is sort, and I can see like what we were just talking about in times of war, like some of these things being played, because it almost sort of kind of is like meditational, sort of like makes you feel calm. So maybe when
Yes,
people were stressed out and anxious during war times, they were listening to this music and being like
yes.
a sense of peace for them through the
Mm,
music. And that alone is a powerful message for music and what music does to people. Not only when a country is going through something like that, but just in our individual lives, we can find beautiful music like this, and we can put on our headphones and it can kind of bring something, you know, as an observation I have, is just that it brings something about that kind of puts you in a different place, you know. So I could see maybe, you know, who knows what it's like to, I don't know what it's like to be blind, but I can only imagine that there are also like, there's maybe like dreams or thoughts or
mhm, mhm.
projections in the artist whenever they're performing or whenever they're thinking about this music. But yeah, those are just some of the things that I noticed from this tune. So it's a really beautiful tune.
Yeah. Well, this adagio has been adapted for various instruments, and it has a lot of versions, of course. So this particular thing you mentioned, of course, is very important, because in fact is one of the reason, or how I say, it was a inspiration for Joaquin Rodrigo to write this music, because Rodrigo, he was married to Victoria Kami, is the name of his wife. She was a young Turkish pianist, and Rodrigo found himself amidst composing the concerto while he was waiting the birth of their first child. It was a very important moment, but unfortunately, Victoria, his wife, fell gravely ill and was rushed to a hospital, and doctors predicted the almost certain demise of both mother and child. So it's a very, very delicate moment in the life of this man, right? So he was listening to the news, and right after that, he returned home. He found himself thinking about all this moment in his life. You know, he was almost reaching to the biggest happiness in his life. You know, he was married, he was waiting his first child. Like, this is a beautiful moment, and almost right there, he was almost losing everything. So it's so controversial. I don't know if you follow me in this. So this adagio captures this poignant moment, right? So it's a musical dialogue between the composer and his faith, because it's in some ways like a prayer. You know, he's thinking, he's asking God about all what is happening in his life. So you can feel that in the melody. That's why you say it's like a reflection, it's like a meditation, because it's that beautiful way that serves as a profound testament to what is human resilience, right? And the power of music to convey these raw emotions and spiritual dialogue with God or anything you may believe. That a specific moment where you are not able to be angry at all, because you just don't know what's happening. You are praying. Unfortunately, the baby passed away. He died, but his wife survived.
Really, that's a really sad story. I think that it's interesting because you always kind of find these for like either iconic performers or iconic styles of music,
Mhm.
ones that sort of strike you as soulful, you know. I don't know what the science is of this, but as musicians, we sort of feel it. But it could be emotion. Sometimes it's connected to our spirituality. So you know, whether that was, you know, what was going on in his life was a tragedy, but it's sort of, he's sort of like the style seems like it portrayed something peaceful, or you know, like we said, meditational. But something that was sort of like like medicinal to the situation. So I could see that as a performer, you were trying to maybe solve that or fix that with yourself. And we see that in music a lot. We see that with so many styles where, people are struggling, or they're going through a hard time, or there's a war, or there's something wrong with their family. And some of the most beautiful music comes out of these tragedies.
Yes.
But music's always been this way to sort of, either fix ourselves, or to portray what we want, or to share our feelings with other people. And which I think, not to kind of like promote our tours, but I think when you're talking about culture and a way to connect with culture, it just makes sense that music is a way to kind of feel what people are trying to say. Like in the Spanish guitar, when you go and see, whether it's a classical music concert or you go to see a flamenco show, you just see someone portray the passion of what they feel about that instrument. So someone may have learned that tune, that was written years ago, but they may feel it in a different way for something they have going on in their life. And then you could be someone in the audience and you are like, oh, wow, I was just having an argument with my grandparents or my significant other. And then I just sat down at this concert, and this beautiful guitar and instrumentation of this orchestra just put me at peace. And I don't know, that's been something that's always been a huge impact on my life and what music has done for me. And it's always interesting to know that what we're going through in modern times, you can kind of trace back to what people were going through in music history. And sort of like, what I've gone through may be different than what they were going through, but we all can kind of connect with each other. And maybe I can learn that song and put myself at peace, or share that with other people. And I don't think that society would survive without music. I mean, it's hard to tell what people could have done, to get through these situations and stuff. But, I'm sure this was important for him to be able to express himself and to be able to share some peace, in these tragedies. Because I can only imagine how terrible that was. One of the guitarists that I know about, and I'm sure that a lot of us have heard about, is Paco de Lucia. And so it has me wondering, does he play the flamenco version of the guitar, or do you know if he plays the flamenco version of the guitar, or the Spanish guitar, or the classical guitar?
The flamenco. He passed away, his own guitar designed just for him. So
it was customized for him. It was specifically.
Yes. And actually, Paco de Lucia, he played this concierto de Aranjuez, and he learned the concierto just watching the hands of another performer, like looking where he places his fingers in the fretboard, because Paco de Lucia, he wasn't able to read music. So he learned the whole concert, the three movements of the concert, just watching a video.
Amazing. From what I've seen from him, he's definitely, I mean, I don't know as much as maybe you do or others do in Spain, but for me, he's definitely one of my favorites. And wasn't he the one who introduced the Peruvian cajon into flamenco music? So that's like a common thing in flamenco music now, is to see the cajon. But typically it was just foot taps and hand claps, right? Normal. And when was that, like in the 70s? That's what's so great about and unfortunately I wasn't able to go, but maybe next year I can go to the La Rioja Wine and Music Festival, which kind of combined, now that I can imagine this music with like really good famous wine and the scenery, like the beautiful landscapes and these kind of old buildings that just kind of bring you back. So it's like, it's one thing if you just listen to this music on Spotify or wherever you like to listen to music in your house on good speakers. It's like, oh, you got a nice quality. But then when you actually go to see the National Orchestra of Spain with Pablo performing this, I mean, I can only imagine that it was like, being there in that atmosphere and that energy, and maybe having a little bit of wine in your system sort of brought it more to life, So I would conclude with that. I mean, I know, there's not many opportunities you have to hear this kind of thing in authenticity. A lot of times we have to listen to old recordings and things like that. But I'm really happy that the La Rioja government has put together in the cultural sector. They've kind of promoted this connection between their landscapes, the wineries, and classical music. And so anybody who's listening, we only do that once a year. We're going to go to listen to this music and really enjoy Pablo, who's one of the great Spanish guitarists of our
Yes.
time. We get to see him perform, and that was new this year with the National Orchestra of Spain. Hopefully, they continue to do that next year. But just to kind of summarize and conclude this first podcast of ours, tell us a little bit more about. I know you just recently wrote a blog about this, which we'll share in the comments and in the podcast blog. But just give us a little preview of what was it like to be there and experience that.
Like, this is a first level festival. Like, Pablo is very renowned musician performer, so he's bringing the best as well to his home city, is La Rioja. He was born in La Rioja, he's from there, so it's his will to bring the best to La Rioja. Every edition of this festival, it's been presenting very, very high level or really high standards for music, for classical music. So it's a beautiful opportunity to enjoy the best performance in their own genre or instruments. And also, La Rioja is a beautiful place. It's a very, very, it has a stunning beauty. The landscapes, the nature in general, the gastronomy, like food in La Rioja, wines in La Rioja, everything is really unique and special and delicate. But in some way, I think it's because that beautiful nature. I was just right there in La Rioja, and you are walking the mountains and everything just in front of you. Is that kind of feeling when you get overwhelmed because of nature, no? In the United States, you have already that beautiful landscape in Colorado, or you know that feeling, that emotion when you are in a very beautiful place, and you feel like there's something bigger than you over there creating this beautiful moment, or in some way. This is, of course, a very personal feeling or thought, but you can feel there's something, then it's over you. You can't control how was made it, that those mountains and the sky and everything. You are just right there enjoying that and feeling part of that, right? It's that kind of emotion. So you are in La Rioja and feeling that, and you may think like, I can understand in some way why they make that beautiful wines and why they made that beautiful food and all that stuff, because of course they get the inspiration from this beautiful view, this beautiful sight. You can't make it like wherever, or not paying attention to delicate details or things like that when you have the inspiration from that beautiful view just in front of you. And in some ways, like, you feel guilty if you are not at the same level. I can be here, I can be living in this beautiful place, and I can give something just as beautiful like this is this place. No, I don't know if I explain myself, but you can feel all that in La Rioja, and then you are right there, you are enjoying that, you are tasting and learning about how they make that wines, how they craft their scarves and many other things, and also enjoying this beautiful music, these beautiful concerts in monasteries or very old churches, amazing performance. So it's an enchanting moment. It is, and it's an enchanting experience. And I really recommend it's like the Aranjuez, the Concierto de Aranjuez. It's like a gift. It's that kind of experiences that you feel grateful with life and with everything to be there. So it's how I feel, for example, with all the productions, the team for from La Rioja Festival, because they are creating all these beautiful concerts and experiences, and we are able to work with them. We have these good relationships with that team, and we can bring this to other people or offer this to many other peoples around the world. It's just that.
It's amazing. Well, hopefully next year I can go. but I'm glad that you and our clients had a great time. So that pretty much wraps it up for our first podcast about Spanish guitar. Look forward to we'll have our links and stuff in the description. or in this blog, wherever you're watching this video, YouTube. So we're gonna basically do just a few episodes, maybe 8 episodes per summer, about different topics. So this was about Spanish guitar, but the other ones could be about African percussion, influences in Latin America, things like that. So we're going to talk about different instruments and styles that relate to the places that we do tours. So we want to help educate and start a conversation. Comments and also direct messages, emails. Feel free to email us if we said something crazy. And we're always open-minded to learn more and to collaborate more with other musicians and anybody who knows more than we do. So
we are musicians.
I'll just say, any last thoughts, Rocío, before?
Just that we are musicians because we choose doing this. Now we enjoy what we do. We want nothing but just share what we're living, what we believe, and what we're experiencing in our daily lives and with our tours and with our studies. So hopefully with this series of podcasts now we can really be successful or say in the right way, in an accurate way, all this we're living. I think it's our main goal.
We all believe that. We believe that music is a bridge and a way to connect with other people. So we'll see you all next time. And thank you so much for tuning in. And it's been a great first episode.
Thank you so much. Thank you. See you next.